All right, 70 weeks. The new Persian ruler, historical note, after Belshazzar comes Darius and Cyrus. There's a bit of confusion here. It seems in the book of Daniel that you get Darius, then Cyrus as king. However, Xenophon and others say that Cyrus is the one who conquered the city of Babylon. Darius is unknown to history. There's a couple of plausible explanations. One is Darius is Cyrus's general or governor. The other is that Darius is just another name for King Cyrus himself. They say that Darius was like Caesar. It was a name that was used for many rulers.
Didn't Darius lead the army against the Greeks?
Yeah, that was later Darius. There's a lot of them. Yeah. So there's some confusion about who Darius is. He's either Cyrus's underling or Cyrus himself. Good to know. So this new Persian ruler Darius is impressed with Daniel and makes him one of the 3 presidents that oversees all 120 satraps of the kingdom. That's the governors. At this time, Daniel is an elderly man. He's in his home. He's reading the book of Jeremiah. And he reads chapter 25, where Jeremiah says that there will be 70 years of exile in Babylon. And Daniel realizes time is almost up. Now, think about this for a moment. When we studied the book of Jeremiah several months ago, it seemed to end in utter disaster. No one listened to Jeremiah. No one repented. Jerusalem was conquered. The temple was destroyed. Jeremiah himself was dragged away to Egypt, where tradition has it that he was stoned to death by his own countrymen for telling them the truth one too many times. And yet, Jeremiah was a beacon of light to the exiles. His book told them that God still had a plan for them, a plan to give them a future and a hope. You are going home in 70 years. In the meantime, be patient, build homes. God is with you. We can't always see the effects of the good that we're doing. Jeremiah thought his ministry was a complete and utter failure in human terms. He didn't know that a generation or two later, his writing would be the spiritual food that sustained the exiles in Babylon. We can't always see the good that we are accomplishing. We have short memories. We forget, or we just don't see. But let us not grow weary in doing good, for we will reap a harvest at the proper time if we do not give up. After Daniel reads Jeremiah and realizes the 70 years are almost up, he is greatly encouraged. He prays to God. He confesses the sins of his nation. He begs for God's mercy. And then he gets a major surprise. Bam! The angel Gabriel appears to him. Gabriel calls him greatly beloved. It's what God calls each of us. Then Gabriel says, in effect, I have come to give you a prophecy of a still more distant future. This one, well, let's take a look at it. Daniel chapter 9. All right, this is what Gabriel says to Daniel. 70 weeks of years are decreed concerning your people and your holy city, to finish the transgression, to put an end to sin, and to atone for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal both vision and prophet, and to anoint a most holy place. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the word to restore and build Jerusalem, to the coming of an anointed one, a prince, there shall be 7 weeks. Then for 62 weeks it shall be built again with squares and moat, but in a troubled time. And after the 62 weeks, an anointed one shall be cut off and shall have nothing. And the people of the prince who is to come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. Its end shall come with a flood, and to the end there shall be war. Desolations are decreed. And he shall make a strong covenant with many for 1 week, and for half of the week he shall cause sacrifice and offering to cease. And upon the wing of abominations shall come one who makes desolate, until the decreed end is poured out on the desolator. Anyone want to take a stab at it? There's a lot going on here, but you know what? We're going to unpack it. No, 70 weeks of years means 470 years.
Why did you say it?
For the same reason Abraham Lincoln said 7 years ago.
Mine says 490 years.
That's because your Bible can do math better than I can. 490 years.
It doesn't say what you said, 7 does.
490 years. Oh, it actually says 490 years. That is a smart translation. That is the most literal translation. In the original translation, it really does just say 70 weeks. It is universally understood to mean 70 weeks of years. I forget why, there's other context for that, but everyone understands it that way. So you got 490 years. All right, here's interpretation number 1. 490 years, where's that? If you count from King Cyrus, the order for the Jews to return home, to the time of Jesus, it's a little bit too long. But if you count from Ezra or Nehemiah, which is actually the order to rebuild Jerusalem, to Jesus, that's about right. That's 490 years. Jesus, then, is the anointed one who is cut off. He is the one who makes a strong covenant with many. And after 3.5 years of ministry, half a week, the veil of the temple is torn in two as he dies on the cross as the ultimate sacrifice, putting an end to the Jewish sacrificial system. There we go. Oh, but wait, there's more. So that's the most classic Christian interpretation. It's the one that the church fathers almost universally subscribed to, that the 70 weeks of years point to Jesus. And yet, there are 2 other popular and good interpretations. Modern scholars usually believe that this prophecy, and most every other prophecy in Daniel, points to the time of the Maccabees. In that view, this prophecy points to Antiochus Epiphanes. He is the evil Greek ruler who, around 160 BC, tried to stamp out the Jewish faith. You can read all about him in 1st and 2nd Maccabees. He made war against the Jews for 7 years, the final week of the prophecy. He desecrated the Jewish temple at the halfway point, and for 3.5 years caused sacrifices to cease. The one big problem with this interpretation is that while Judah Maccabee was a great hero, he did not bring in everlasting righteousness. However, it's a good secondary interpretation. Interpretation number 3. Modern evangelicals and a few early church fathers treat this prophecy as being primarily about the Antichrist at the end of time. In this view, Christ is the anointed one who is cut off at the end of the 69th week. Then there is a gap between the 69th and 70th week until the end of time. During the last 7 years before the second coming, the Antichrist will persecute the saints. For 3.5 years, he will cause sacrifices to cease, and then he will be defeated by Jesus at his second coming. I like to make fun of gap theory, but since the book of Daniel reiterates over and over that the Antichrist at the end of time will be like Antiochus Epiphanes, this too is a good secondary interpretation. Thoughts or questions?
So when is the second coming, according to the Bible?
Yeah, we don't know.
I thought we just roared past it.
Okay, funny story. Maybe it's only funny to me, but when I was studying for this class, I was reading St. Jerome's commentary on Daniel. And St. Jerome came to this passage and went, I'm not even going to touch it. You know, everything else Jerome's got a really strong opinion on, if you're familiar with St. Jerome. He's got very strong opinions on everything, and he likes to get down on people that don't agree with him. However, when it comes to this prophecy, he goes, I'm just going to repeat what every other church father before me has said. Here's what he says, here's what he says, here's what he says. And most of them point to Jesus. And then he comes to the one that says, and then there's the one that believes that the prophecy begins in the time of Jesus, or begins around the birth of Jesus, and that the anointed one cut off at 7 weeks is Jesus, and so the world's going to end right around 460. He said, I have a feeling this guy's going to make us look really stupid in another couple generations. So, yeah, this prophecy has been subject to all different kinds of interpretations, including the end is near interpretations for a long time.